Nope. It's been a while. Been a couple months since I played this game. Personal reasons and game issues, which we're going to be addressing. You know, there's going to be max a lot of content. You know, I'm just going to be playing the game, and I'm going to talk about Sirius and Orion, existing problems. I was playing some Isle. I did not get a great loadout. It is what it is. The new update has a lot of mixed feelings, so as the previous ones. And I think we, you know, as a community, we should really, you know, look towards the devs and be like, hey, come on, let's really address this, because the future of this game is, you know, dependent on, you know, the community and how we receive the game, and, you know, talk about it. Sirius and Orion dropped, and a lot of mixed feelings, but a lot of, you know, positivity. I'm here to, you know, talk about it because I really don't get it. I think Sirius and Orion suck in terms of how they dealt with the entire update, which makes no sense. To address just the horrible execution abilities, Orion and Sirius have some of the biggest nothing burger abilities I've ever seen. Especially Orion. He has two abilities that is insane. Like, he has Saren's Molt, which is worse. He also has a black hole for no reason. Why? Why did we make that? You know, makes no sense from a, you know, design standpoint, where they have these mentors, they have Ruda, they have Ash, they have, you know, Jade, Stalk, and they just have no, like, almost no abilities or, you know, resemblance of any of that. You know, like, where is that? You know, and that's something that, you know, no one has been talking about, like, which is kind of crazy to me. It's like, can we not, like, you know, see that these guys really just suck? They just have nothing, you know, going for them in terms of, you know, relating to the quest. And that's another problem. The quest itself was like basically just, you know, for moments, and then they put us into interception the first fucking 5 minutes. We're like, okay, like, who the hell put us in interception, bro? But let's talk about, you know, the warframe itself. I don't get why the need of, you know, having a black hole. You know, why are we adding a black hole in this frame? It just resembles more of like a Nova ability. It's like, you know, are we just, you know, looking at, you know, our past warframes and be like, what do people like? People like Nova, so let's do another, like, you know, matter thing. And it's just like, okay, why did these guys have? What's the background for that? I'd love to know. But, you know, they have Saren's Molt. Why is that there? You know, I feel like that's more of a serious ability rather than Orion. So kind of weird seeing it on Orion, who's more of like a you know, DPS focus. You know, that's what they're looking for, and then there's just Molt that does like literally nothing for him. I don't know why they added that. I feel like they should just like change it to be like more slash based or more stalker based, where they have, you know, the damage redirection, but you have to be super aggressive for it. It just doesn't make sense, and I feel like, you know, they've had so much time to cook up, like 3 years since you know, they like did the quest where they, you know, did Sirius and Orion stuff. So they've had a lot of time to really think about the design. But it really feels like this entire update was made within like 30 minutes. You know, it's just like, why? So I don't get it, you know. It's like, especially with the coding and stuff, you know, we have the code where, you know, the code has weapons. why are they coded as weapons? It doesn't really make sense. You know, why? Like, couldn't we just like fix that, because it's led to like literally a million bugs. So you know, I feel like that needs to be addressed. Also, wiki hype. Everyone I've seen just be like, "Oh, Sirius and Orion, best frame ever." It's just like, where, bro? They have shitty 4 that has line of sight checks. You know, percentage range checking. You know, like where like just Equinox 2.0, where instead of it being the damage, it's, you know, I mean the DR is the damage. You really need roll, just like, great, you know, let's use one of our 3 subsume spots. It's like, okay, cool, let's just make great solo builds, roll on everything. You know, funny saying that on 7 off the roll people, but you know, it's just like, it's disappointing because they could have been so much more. Like, I feel like, you know, I've focused on, you know, a friend, you know, that they were like hyping them up, and then they put 10 Omniformer, you know, and then they had its own, you know, questionable backlash on it afterwards. No, they were glazing it. They were hyping up so much, you know, the dev stream, you know, super cool, you know, flashy, and then they turn out to be a mediocre frame, line of sight checks, 0 damage, no ability synergies really. They have like the first ability, and then the black hole is like, wow, guys, so great. Which is crazy. They had so much time to think, and it's just like, this is what we came up with. Insane. And it's like funny how they mentioned Equinox in that same dev stream, and then it's just Equinox is the better frame, literally just the better frame, and Equinox is equally as bad. That moves me on to my other problem, line of sight. I'll look for potential nerfs to hildryn and thermal sunder. Hildryn I get. I was a big hildryn enjoyer, and saying hildryn was like super strong, but then they just buffed her like 20 times over. She's way too strong now. Like, she's the definition of invasive gameplay, and which doesn't make sense because he labeled it as more of AFK strats. So it's just like, who cares? Octavia exists. You made Octavia. That's the AFK frames, the same goddamn thing. So I don't really get that. But you know, now that it's like mentioned and Pablo, you know, acknowledges, we're probably expecting a nerf. But then he also mentioned thermal sunder, which is crazy. Thermal sunder is most usability, like relic farming stuff. I don't see why we would nerf something that the community, you know, uses and likes to some degree. Obviously, some people, you know, don't like the Tanya, which is bad. But it's just like, it's needed for farming, especially with how many times you've nerfed fucking Aya and shit. It's just insane that we nerf it to this degree. And this is just mostly because of Sirius and Orion, where they don't have line of sight check, and people be like, wow, they do no damage, and then, you know, they do it in such a small range, so people are complaining. I just don't get it. Like, just give them the line of sight stuff. You know? Just don't give them, like, man, I got some bad fucking trees. Oh man, it's survival. The worst type of missions. Right. Let's just you know, moving on, let's move on to, like, you know, the mission. Railjack. I couldn't believe I was watching Railjack, you know, on the dev stream. Like, Highway dropping Railjack, then they mentioned Steel Path. I was like, what are they thinking? What are they thinking? Because clearly they don't have test servers. We know that, and that's definitely another problem that should be addressed. Where, you know, we should be having, you know, test servers to be testing out stuff. Herzheim is a good example where he can test the frame, but only his opinion on the frame is not great in my opinion. Like his builds are, they work, but we need multiple testers because clearly he didn't encounter all of the 200 bugs with Sirius and Orion and how they work and how they interact with the mission itself, where you get bug rewards, where you get base path rewards rather than steel path rewards. But then there's also the mission type itself, where bugs that they said be prepared for bugs. Are we seriously shipping like update with this many bugs that you're saying be prepared? It's kind of ridiculous, it's just like, and these players just eat it up and be like, great, what? Doesn't it just make sense? How can we just sit here and just let the devs do this? They're great, or people kill me or something. They're great, and I wouldn't take another dev team other than this, but we have to have some problems, man. You can't be just doing this and expecting no like backlash, because there was some backlash on the no club update, and they learned that they can't just really just do that, because people get mad, especially the Chinese community. They get really mad. So this should be a chance to learn something. And then we have the other problem, where it's the lighting problem. They also updated the lighting. I don't see that many people care for it, because it's just lighting. But there's also like a huge problem that everyone's experienced, but less people know of it, and that's hosting, where everything is done on the back end on a file on your computer, where everything registers, everything updates, which has not a unified tick rate. It is updated dependent on your guest. So it's really important for you to have decent frames, or above decent frames, where you have like a really good computer to get better spawns, to get better responsiveness. And this happens, when someone is hosting, where they will lock that rate for everyone. So if someone is on like a Nintendo and they're like FPS cap, or they're struggling to handle it, everyone will experience that. So updating the lighting is just like a ridiculous thing to do, because everyone will definitely feel the effects of it. Especially if you're not playing solo, you're gonna be like, you're gonna have the games that are super laggy, super annoying to play, and then you're gonna have some games that are just fine, and people happy. It's like, we really should be changing this. Like that system is like 10 years old, and I get that it's expensive and it's gonna take a very long time to get through the systems and stuff, but we really should unify this, because to some degree it's like pay to win, but it's more just hardware lock. And we're slowly killing off the older devices that can't run warframe at like a stable FPS, so they have stable updates and so on. So we should really be looking at updating that and changing that. What else? I don't really know. Oh, I mean, the community bias and glaze and white knighting. I've kind of talked about it, but like, this community is so biased and so ready to white knight everything that it's kind of annoying, because you can't really complain, you can't really criticize the game, even though criticizing the game does more good than it does harm. I don't get why people hate someone that's trying to improve the game. I play the game for so long that I have problems that I want to be fixed, so obviously I'm gonna complain about them, and if they don't get fixed, it's just like, oh well, what am I supposed to do? The entire community is against it. There's no noise about it, so it doesn't get fixed. This is the FPS problem, where there's such an old system that they can't really unify it, and it's just like, we're all dealing with it. but no one wants to talk about it. This is also kind of like, I'm not gonna blame content creators as well, because they do good, you know, they help the community, you know, play the game to some degree. But a lot of like warframe content creators, they just kind of glaze the game because, you know, they're pawn it. So, you know, to some degree, some glaze is needed. And that's fair, you know, whatever, bro. But there should be some backlash and some complaint. Because you're a content creator, you have the loudest mouth, you have the most voiced opinion that you have, and you're just not using it for any good. And it's just like sad, you know. We should be having these content creators have the freedom to, you know, talk so freely that complaining isn't, you know, gonna lead to a huge backlash. And then we're gonna have a great game, but the likelihood of that happening is next to zero. And, the future of this game is questionable in terms of playability and like the diehard community, because, you know, there's no endgame content. That's another complaint everyone has. No endgame content. There's nothing to do. But, you know, in return, they're fixing new play stuff, and I think that's good. New play stuff needs to be fixed, but if you're not leaving, you know, space for the end game, the people that can actually help, you know, talk about the game are not here to, you know, really talk about the problem, which is needed. I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. Now let me know your thoughts. If, you know, I'm just schizophrenic and I'm talking to myself, I fell off 6 months, it's over, or, you know, people agree with me. I'll let them know. I'm just gonna finish this run out and then end the video. Wow. So horrible. Well, man. Ugh. I love slam. So fun. Oh wow, I do no damage. Oh, this is gonna be a much longer outcome than I expected. Shit. I'm thinking